What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And on the day of the final day of live action football, the football season is over. After the day will be crowned either a new champion or a three-time champion. We'll find out in the upcoming game, the Super Bowl, where the Kansas City Chiefs will be facing the Philadelphia Eagles in New Orleans at the Caesars Superdome. The game starts at 6:30 today. There's a lot of people who I just hate this word for some reason, but fatigue. I'm just hearing fatigue all the time, and to me, it's just, you can't be mad at people who are ultra successful when it comes to winning. You know, and I ain't talking about in the sense of making money and stuff like that. I'm just talking about success on the field, success on the court, success when it comes to their statistics and stuff like that. And at some point, the word fatigue needs to go out of people's mind when it comes to, if a team is winning, then your team or the owners of your teams need to start finding a way to beat the team that they're so fatigued from. You know, like, again, the Patriots didn't win every Super Bowl that they got in, but the fact that they won so many, guess what? That was other teams' fault for them not being as successful. You know, because, again, Washington had a very long run of non-successful teams because our owner was a dumbass. So, again, this game is going to be a very big game because we're going to really see what impact the running back has now made and what teams should be looking for in running backs, because for a while the running back position was very marginalized. Everybody forgot that you needed a running game to actually win football games. And what happened is that this season, Saquon Barkley has thrown in the face of everyone the value of a running back. And this goes back to the Hard Knock show, when they were talking about the fact of, is it worth paying a running back $12 million a year? And we're just talking about 12, where wide receivers are getting up to 20-something. They didn't know the value of a running back at only $12 million a year. And I told people before that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll should have been fired this year. Should have been fired because they didn't listen to their owner, John Mara, who sat up there and made it a point of pointing out not wanting Saquon Barkley to go to Philadelphia. And look at what has transpired so far. Not only that, they should have been fired when they ended up having to bench Daniel Jones and then end up having to release Daniel Jones. So, again, Saquon Barkley has shown the value of the running back position and how valuable that running back position is. But guess what? Andy Reid never forgot how valuable the running back position was, because he's always had a reliable running back or two. Remember, most people tend to forget Kareem Hunt was on the bench. He was at home. And Andy Reid was like, Pacheco went down, let me go get Kareem Hunt, because I know he knows my system and he knows what I like to do in the system, and he's not that bad of a pass catcher out the backfield. So this year has been the revitalization of the running back position, and everybody understanding how important the running back position really is. Because if you pay attention to these games, even when the playoffs came around, the team that didn't have the running games were the teams that lost. The teams that lost were the ones who didn't focus the running game like they were supposed to. Should have been either by their quarterback being a majority of the runner, or the fact that their running back being the sole focus of running the ball. And this year was a very impactful year for that. This year, the Philadelphia Eagles, even though This is not their most talented defensive team. They actually don't. This is not their most talented defensive team that they've had in a long time. This team is less talented than the team they had last year. And the team that they had, last year's team. This team is not as talented as the team that they had last year. And for some reason, they made it back again. And defensively, they're a very strong group. Now, do I feel that their corners have been tested really well this year? No. I don't feel that their corners were tested that much this year. And I think that this game will test them. Because you're talking about, we're going to actually see a defensive mind versus an offensive mind. When you talk about Andy Reid versus Vic Fangio, but understand, Andy Reid has been facing a Vic Fangio type of guy the entire year and during his entire tenure as a Kansas City defensive coordinator, and Steve Spagnuolo, who's just as good or maybe even better than Vic Fangio when it comes to defense. I told y'all, this has been the best defensive team Patrick Mahomes has had since he started his tenure with the Kansas City Chiefs. And this team looks like the team that, again, go back, championship, defense wins championships. This has been the Kansas City Chiefs' best defensive group in a very long time. And I mean a very long time. This is their most stringent defense that we've seen. Like I said, during the Patrick Mahomes era. The Kansas City Chiefs are not a sleeper team. Now, I will say this. I think that there is some fatigue when it comes to the Chiefs, but it's not because of the Chiefs, and it's not because of Andy Reid. I think it has more to do with Taylor Swift. I think people who are football fans are tired of seeing Taylor Swift. Because you know why? A lot of those football fans aren't Taylor Swift fans. A lot of them could care less about that. We saw, like, when you look at, most of y'all don't know how many of these football players are actually married to superstar women. And we don't see them as often on these shows. Russell Wilson is entirely married to Ciara. We don't see Ciara on broadcast like we do Taylor Swift. And it's gotten to the point where they show Taylor Swift so much that at first it used to be only when Travis Kelce do something. In the last playoff game, we saw them showcase her when Patrick Mahomes did something. You would have thought that Patrick Mahomes was dating Taylor Swift now. And that's how crazy it is. I think it's more of the Taylor Swift fatigue than it is of Kansas City championship fatigue. And people have to understand that I can understand that as well, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh my God, can we stop seeing Taylor Swift already? Like, she's not even on the field playing the game. Just keep her up there. Nobody cares. And that, I think that that's more of what it is. I think that people are getting kind of like that. They're getting tired of seeing Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce's mom. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's another thing. I think that people are starting to get tired of the Kelces as a whole, even though they're not doing anything that no other athlete would do. You know what I'm saying? They're doing exactly what all the other athletes do. They're in commercials, they're doing their podcasts and everything like that. They're doing the exact same stuff that other people are, but I think that people are just fed up with it. But because they're fed up with it because it comes with Taylor Swift. And I think that everybody's fatigued from that. This game is going to be a game where we will see whichever team truly makes more turnovers is going to be the losing team. I will also say this. If at any point Philadelphia is on the offensive end and Kansas City gets a stop, the game will be over, because contrary to what people want to believe, Patrick Mahomes is without a shadow of the doubt the greatest quarterback we have seen when it comes to not only winning, but coming back from deficits and winning. Like, this guy, and coming back from deficits in key games and winning. That right there is the part that should be paid attention to more. Because there are a lot of quarterbacks who've come back from deficits in the regular season and the games didn't matter. We're talking about a guy who's shown not only in the regular season but also in the playoffs that at the end of the day, you're not going to understand no deficit is impossible for them to overcome. And for a team like Philadelphia, who's used to kind of getting ahead of people and things like that, that's not going to be the same thing. You're not going to have that same level of possibility to win when you're going up against a team that no lead is safe. And that right there is the truest form of a statement ever. When it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, 0 leads are ever safe. 0. And we've seen them do it over and over and over again, including in the playoffs. We saw that the Buffalo Bills had an opportunity. Then guess what happened? We saw Patrick Mahomes go to another level. We rarely see Patrick Mahomes run the way he does, run the way that he's been running this playoff season. We're used to Patrick Mahomes scrambling, getting out of the pocket, doing things to still throw down the field. We actually saw Patrick Mahomes put his body on the line and bulldoze players over to get a touchdown. That is a next level thing. That is a guy that understands that this isn't about just being the best and being recognized as the best. This is showing that I am the best, and if nothing else is working, I'm going to do something different to make it work. That's going to be a hard thing for the Philadelphia Eagles to deal with. Now, I will say this. Zach Bond, without a shadow of a doubt, has played fantastic this season. He has been one of the best players this year. Zach Bond, if things go the way that Kansas City wanted to go, Zach Bond may be a non-factor in this game. And the only reason why is because they're going to need someone to spy Patrick Mahomes. Could it be Reed Blankenship? It could be, but guess what they'll do? Patrick Mahomes will find a way to say, okay, every time I scramble, once we figure out who the spy is on me, we're just going to throw right in that area where that player is supposed to be at. And that's what they're going to do. I really do think that Philadelphia will give them a game, but I will tell you this. If at any point Kansas City stops Saquon from running, if Saquon Barkley only has 50 yards by the half, this game is over. This game is over. Now, again, on the opposite side, Philadelphia poses just as big of a problem. Because, again, Saquon, again, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Saquon with me is the second best running back I've seen in my life. And I've seen other running backs. Marshall Faulk for me is number 1. And the reason I say this is because I talk about complete backs. Guys who can catch out the backfield. Guys who can who does a really good job pass blocking. Guys who can run the ball. Guys who can take a 5-yard run, something that's supposed to be for 5 yards, and take it to the house. I've only seen, to me, in my personal opinion, when you're talking about complete backs, Marshall Faulk for me is number 1. Saquon Barkley is number 2. And that's just how I feel about that. Now, in the sense of the Philadelphia Eagles' ability to run the ball, it starts with their offensive line. They boast what is possibly the biggest offensive line we've seen. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens has a huge line, and so does the Buffalo Bills. But the Philadelphia Eagles has a big line, and their tackles are very big. You know what I'm saying? And that is something that I think that when it comes down to it, people tend to forget how massive their offensive line is, to the point at where they engulf smaller edge guys. And if you don't sit up there and find a way to get past these behemoths on the offensive line, there's a chance that, guess what? Philadelphia will do exactly what they did this year. They will eat up the clock. They will run the ball with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and then the game will be over. And with that, like I said again, we're seeing a different type of running game. I still feel that there are times that Kellen Moore is just a terrible play caller, because he does an awful job with sticking with the run when it's successful. He had that same issue back in Dallas. He had that same issue with the Chargers, and he still has that same issue now with the Eagles, who clearly have a team built for running the ball. Still has that problem. And like I said, offensively, again, if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw the ball this game, again, this will be a major problem. Because again, what most teams don't know, all they have to do is frustrate A.J. Brown. You frustrate A.J. Brown becomes a head case on the sideline. And every time we've seen him have some type of antics on the sideline, Philadelphia has lost. Philadelphia has lost the game. Or when he feels, or even if they don't lose the game, there's something that you can see that somehow, some way, the team isn't quite the same. So again, if you really want to find a way to beat Philadelphia, all you gotta do is just get A.J. Brown out the game, get him completely out the game. Zero him out. And then all of a sudden do everything you can to stop Saquon. And then you have a chance. Another thing. That is a big thing for Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts goes out the game because of a concussion or whatever, because understand he's been concussed, I think, twice this year. He goes out of the game. There's a huge chance y'all lose this game. And it's one of those situations where if you pay attention to how this game goes, Jalen Hurts is the driving force for the offense. And if at any point he's out of the game is over with. So, with all that being said, I personally have the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Philadelphia Eagles and getting that three-peat. I just feel that this season was the season where Kansas City brought it all together. And I feel that we're also seeing Patrick Mahomes play at a different level. This year, he didn't have the passing numbers, but he did have a lot of rushing numbers this year. In the playoffs, we saw Patrick Mahomes actually running the ball, actually using the RPO to actually run the ball himself. And we've seen him do stuff, but this is the first time we've seen him put his body on the line to actually power himself into a touchdown. We normally don't see that from Patrick Mahomes. We see that grit and determination from him this year, and it's hard for me to believe that at any point Philadelphia is going to stop him from any type of any lead that's not any lead. So if Philadelphia did have a lead, it's hard for me to believe that Patrick Mahomes, in the state of mind that he's currently in, where he's not passing the ball that well, that he isn't somehow, some way going to win the game. So for that being said, I will take the Kansas City Chiefs over the Philadelphia Eagles in this Super Bowl. I just feel that Philadelphia doesn't quite have the dogs in the game to stop Patrick Mahomes and any type of Patrick Mahomes comeback that will happen. Don't get me wrong. I do feel this will be a very close game. I will give a score 35-33. I think this will be a game where defenses will step up big time, but it will be hard for them to stop a lot of the offensive firepower that will be happening because, again, speed kills, but so does strength. Y'all tell me how y'all think. How do y'all feel this upcoming Super Bowl will happen? This is the end of the season. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this is the Frustrated Fans Sports Show.